nice story to tell is that a few years ago, when I was still working at Rabobank, we were already researching different kind of platforms that were out there for the carbon credit world. And back then, that's like 5 years ago, I already could find some platforms that were using blockchain technology. So I think that was very good. But then they did not provide sometimes all the source information, for example. So then you only had a hash. But if you don't know what the hash means, right? So if you're, like you said, a retail customer, then it still does not make a lot of sense. So but from that 5 years ago until today, I still did a lot of research on the sustainability side and the applications and all the platforms that are out there around this topic. And I think it's really growing really fast, but it also has to do with platforms like Hedera, for example, that have these tooling and all these technological components that you can use and reuse, and an ecosystem that's growing around that to build on top of their layer. And I think that really helps, because that makes life easier if you can, of course, reuse some parts and tools that are already out there and also connect that in the ecosystem. So I think that really helps.
We're starting now, we'll be launching things called Blueprint, which is basically workflows. Anybody will be able to use our AI system to sort of generate a workflow. You'll be able to publish these workflows, and you'll be able to earn royalties from those workflows as other people use them for different things. So if you're an expert on anything, or you have an idea or on anything, build a workflow with us, publish it. It'd be like an app store, basically. And somebody wants to use it, they grab it, they use it for whatever purposes they use it for. And so that's a sort of big sort of part in the future in terms of what we're building.
So here we have a range of different workflows, or in other words, blueprints that describe specifications of how data and approvals should flow together in order to produce a result, an auditable, potentially tokenized or digitized result. Instead of thinking about assets being singular instances, we think of a blueprint having access to all instances that are based off those particular rules. What we do well is workflow modeling and the audit trail. That's what we do.
What is good, y'all? What is good? Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to another episode. We're about to talk Dovu in this one, but before we get into that, y'all already know it's time for that roll call. Patreon Telegram members, the most W squad, period. Patreon week coming up. Don't forget to check in. YouTube channel members might get it out the mud crew. Hey, we got some new ones in the house. As a way to say thank you for my sergeants, we gonna get y'all the catch up from the last newsletter that dropped on through the rest of the year. For the soldiers, we're gonna make sure y'all get a copy of December. That is my way of saying thank you. I wasn't able to get that new subscription thing figured out for y'all, so we'll get that going at least through the rest of the year here and call that good. And last announcement before we get started, BTCC Perpetual Futures Trade. Save yourselves some ducats on the fees. And let's get into this content. Dovu and Hedera joined at the hip.
The refi space is in need of an audit trail. Hedera leadership has previously spoken of the trust layer. Dovu has been aiming to solve the audit and trust problem and is now launching the trust token. You are now tuned in to ShookFocuz, and it is time,
Previously on ShookFocuz.
Dovu, basically, we're building the platform of trust for carbon credits, for ecological credits. So you've got huge corporates that have made commitments to become net zero by 2030, and there aren't enough credits out there, quality credits out there, even for one of them. That's the main issue, is supply. There's biochar, there's kelp in the ocean, there's recycling of plastic, there's also there are literally thousands of different methodologies being created. And again, by leveraging Hedera and the work that we're doing, we're enabling, it's a combination of AI and the stuff that we've been building, you to very quickly spin up a workflow, spin up a methodology, publish it, and then sort of earn every time it's used.
Savimbo becomes first certified under Cerro Carbano Biodiversity Certification Program. And what catches my attention even more was the 400,000 credits. Since they haven't been available yet, one might assume that these credits have not been minted, and we know what it requires to do that if you've been following this Dovu content.
It's time to shake the focus up. Sick of being sick and tired, tell me if you had enough. Yeah, it's Shook's in the building now. We ain't missing nothing. We gon' catch you if they got a rub.
I think it's also really important because I think a lot of stuff that's happening in the carbon credit space is not transparent, and companies are just buying carbon credits because they have to, but they don't really look like what's the quality. I think it's more and more a topic. They care more and more about high quality carbon credits. Until now, there's only a small percentage that is qualified as a high quality carbon credits, for example. So there's a lot of work to do here, and also a lot of space and room for different companies to develop different kind of platforms.
High quality carbon credits. High quality carbon credits and trust. That's key. Putting them together makes that high quality carbon credits that you can trust. This has literally been Dovu's message right from the beginning. But the focus up until this point has mainly been on the carbon credits. Now, with the introduction of the trust token, where if not here, we'll get into during the live stream or something, we can start to see more of that use case and sustained business model where the project is accruing value even when credits are not being minted. With Dovu, it's always been a sweet and sour project to cover. Not because I don't think it'll be successful, but because it kind of goes over a lot of people's heads. It's not a banking and payments token, and unfortunately at the moment, that's all most people understand crypto to be. But I also don't think that's going to be the status quo for much longer. Especially not with companies like Deloitte now publicly speaking the same language. For the Dovu OGs, hearing her speak should be music to your ears. But Deloitte is not just talking about carbon credits and ESG. They are actually actively doing work that can make use of Dovu's technology. Shout out to Generation Infinity on this one. Back in July, Deloitte partnered with Hedera Hashgraph to launch an ESI platform. In collaboration with the Hashgraph, Deloitte has introduced their environment and social impact platform, providing unparalleled levels of assurance and environmental impact measurement using Hedera for corporations to drive net zero goals. For those who might not be familiar with Deloitte, they are a global professional services company, and they offer those services in all the major topics: consumers, energy and resources, financial services, government, healthcare, tech. And they operate in fiscal years, and theirs just ended in May, reported $70.5 billion with a B in revenue, 5% more than they made in 2024, getting money in the drought. The few times we've actually decided to look into companies and in the relationships involving Dovu, these companies always have a large number of B's next to the name. Again, along with all that, they are Team ESG. Deloitte is a global leader in professional services, known for driving positive environmental and social change. So they help a lot of companies and sectors come up with solutions, and now they can tie in solutions that fit the environmental scope. We'll talk about green light and green space a little later in the video. For now, I want to focus on the tether between Dovu and Hbar because I don't think a lot of people understand how essential Dovu OS is to Hbar. It's the flagship project for a reason. Hedera Hashgraph stands out for a sustainable approach to blockchain technology, particularly through the use of the Hedera Guardian. The Guardian is an open source software that enhances Hedera's climate initiatives by providing a transparent, accountable framework for environmental projects. It facilitates the creation, management, and reporting of digital environmental assets such as carbon credits and renewable energy certificates. It gets no closer with descriptions like that. But let's take a deeper look into that Dovu Guardian relationship. Smithies once explained this using Mac and Windows. You could also think of those as ecosystems, or combining a bunch of services that together can scale to take on an entire sector of the economy. It's all about scaling. Hedera, just like the other layer ones you look at, needs a solution that can help its business scale with less resources. Dovu does this by simplifying the onboarding of ecological projects and accelerating the carbon credit process. For crypto native folks, just think of that as automating a utility NFT creation process. And they're not just coming to take advantage of legacy money. They helping to grow the market cap of the space. Look at this tweet from Hbar. The team at Dovu is helping scale climate finance from billions of dollars to trillions. Dovu is helping scale from billions of dollars to trillions.
We want to bring the world's land basically into the carbon economy.
Imagine this very abbreviated and biased version, but it keeps stuff simple. You got Hedera as the door kicker, then you got Dovu over here. So Hedera is providing that platform and exposure for Dovu, and Dovu in return is a massive earner for the entire environment. And as Irfan says, the rising tide lifts all boats, because you got the governing council sitting over here, and you got these finance projects and other apps that are built on Hedera. And now as these get funded and grow, they themselves can leverage this to make sure they stay nice and clean. The new clients they bring in drive more users back to this warehouse of blueprints and carbon credits, giving back in a sense to Dovu as it gives back to Hbar and repeats.
Dovu OS. Dovu is obviously, everyone knows we have the token, we're working on sustainability, but something we've been obviously pushing over the last year is this concept of an operation system for sustainability. In short, like when we talk about OS or the operation system, we kind of think about it as a stack of different technologies that work together that people can plug into, almost like your Apple or your Windows. And of course, the Guardian is in that. Hedera is in that. The tools that we're building are in that. Marketplaces are in that. That vision is slowly becoming a reality. What Dovu are doing is like a set of tools that provide the ability to work with Guardian in new, easier, simpler ways through a brand new configuration language, and allow people to work on it in a way that's reasonably scalable.
So now we can kind of see why the success of Hedera basically equals the success of Dovu and vice versa. But now we just gonna take that extra step just to make sure we know that these possibilities exist in real life and not just in our head. Yeah, that's right. It's time once again for that critical speculation. Let's go. Another W out of this joint. No surprises here, and we don't need a lot of time with the turn up in this one. It was right in our face the whole time. Deloitte has two well-known ESG initiatives. If you caught the beginning, those are Greenlight and Greenspace. First up, Greenlight, a true end-to-end sustainability solution that unlocks a clear, actionable path to net zero emissions. Step by step, you can transform strategy into action and start working to reduce your company's carbon footprint in weeks, not months. Again, they can promise that thanks to things like Hedera Guardian and Dovu. But then we got Salesforce. That's right, a governing council member. Deloitte partners with Hedera, and Salesforce is a governing council member. We can already see where Dovu would fit in. Look at the first enablement, automating these processes. There's a reason that Bybot been going crazy over in the Telegram. Then we got to get to Greenspace. Deloitte also has this Greenspace initiative, and what does it do? That's right, it provides businesses with access to climate technologies and also unleashes value by identifying new collaborations and opportunities, bringing people to tech. And what is Dovu? That's right, and Salesforce is not the only council member they partner with. In 2023, Deloitte announced a global collaboration with IBM that will leverage the two companies' leading sustainability solutions. And one more thing. Also in 2023, Deloitte partnered with Google. That's right, another governing council member, to announce a groundbreaking initiative with Google Cloud that will help clients mitigate climate risk and adopt green solutions, utilizing tech like generative AI.
But again, going back to what we were talking about earlier about building something that makes sense in the future. In the future, it won't be humans making these decisions as to what they're buying and selling. So you need to make these credits searchable and, of course, digital and made available to robots and AI. And you need to make them available for point of sale systems so that actually when you go to the coffee shop and you buy your coffee, it's just automatically offset.
National Westminster Bank, a major bank in the United Kingdom, recently worked with Google Cloud, Deloitte, and Climate Engine to utilize Google Earth Engine and help NatWest leverage geospatial data to capture climate-related data points across its commercial banking portfolio, with the first use case focused on agricultural customers. There's clues here. For example, geospatial technology provided new data points and insights to assist NatWest with reporting obligations, like the EU Taxonomy and Task Force on Nature-related financial disclosures, as well as support for their customers' own climate and nature data collections. This information will also allow farmers to build a tailored picture of the challenges facing them, such as flood, drought, fire, and biodiversity risks, all at field-specific levels. With Dovu, I think we reached that point where we understand the tech use cases well enough to start listening out for where they have the potential to be used or fit in. It really is turning into a puzzle, and for me, that's what makes crypto the most enjoyable. I get to play this game of Clue, and sometimes we make a little change. But there's still some right now saying that this is a reach. But you tell me what this sounds like.
If you claim that you have reduced your carbon emissions, but you did not, for example, that is related to the greenwashing. So you say you're doing very well and very green, but in the end you cannot state that the claim is really made. But it's also a bit sad because a lot of companies, of course, don't know. So they think they did well with buying carbon certificates and all those different kind of products that are out there. But if you cannot rely on the underlying source, then it will become really hard to make the claim also valuable. So that's what's happening at the moment. So a lot of companies buy these credits, they don't know, and then in the end they will get a fine because they greenwashed and they said they did things very good that they did not. So I think that's a shame, because I think the intention of those different companies is good, right? They just want to make sure their emissions are lowered or offsetted by these carbon credits. But then, I think a lot of platforms don't offer the service to really go back to the source where the information is coming from.
We realized, heck, this is absolutely crazy. There's no trust in this sort of system. Even if you're a skeptic for climate, forget all of that. Okay, there's no trust that actually a carbon credit can't be sold multiple times over. A tree doesn't get planted 50 times or never planted. All of these sort of things is just lacking in trust. And if there's one thing, blockchain hashgraph is good for, it's ledgering. So let's do that. So we focused on building something that could give an audit trail of these sort of projects from origination. In other words, a farmer wanting to plant more hedges in his farm or whatever, through to the sale and retirement of these credits. Let's build that all on chain. Let's do that, end-to-end sort of system.
Now, if that don't sound to you like Dovu was in the right places, I don't know. You might want to play the video again. But you know what? I'll give you one more chance and let the founder of Hedera tell you. Until next time, don't get shook. Stay focused. And I'm out.
But what's number 2? Avoidable deforestation. Avoiding the deforestation, really. The idea is that if they're going to cut down a forest and someone saves it, they have saved the trees. The trees remove carbon from the atmosphere. There can be a carbon credit. That's great. Unfortunately, there's problems where someone saves a forest, but they sell the same credits to 2 different people. You're getting double credit for the same tree. That's a problem. Or even worse, there are problems where someone claims to have saved a forest, but it wasn't in danger anyway. That forest wasn't going to be cut down anyway. And so they haven't really reduced carbon at all or increased the carbon removal at all. Lots of fraud in this industry. And this is bad because many companies want to buy carbon credits, but there's lots of fraud. So what can you do? This is where blockchains, ledgers, DLTs have a role.
Well, one of the things that we, as I say, going back to building this platform out, we didn't take the easy route. So there were some companies around that period of time, companies like Toucan and Klima and others that were basically tokenizing existing carbon credits from other registries, turning them into digital versions of that. And we just thought, what's the point? All you're doing is tokenizing something that already exists. So we're not really interested in that. We want to take it right back to the origination and work with the projects themselves. That led us then on to have discussions with other organizations saying, well, why are you just doing credits? If you're just a trust layer, it's basically real world assets we're talking about. So why don't we just digitize real world assets, put that in your warehouse and enable that to be searched and found and sort of monetized. So we go, yeah, makes sense. So we started to sort of build that out. That was it. So Dovu, that's what Dovu was about. It's really building that audit trail, the trust layer, and making that a public ledger.
And so all that came about in 2017, correct?
Well, it started with the car stuff. We did that for a couple of years, and then it was about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where we really got our heads around what it is that we want to do. And one thing that we always knew we wanted to do was build. Right, there's a lot of projects, as we all know, who were around at the time, 2017, 2018. Never intended to build anything. They just bagged a huge amount of Ethereum and Bitcoin, and then claimed to be VCs. So it was and built nothing, So we wanted to build something, and the team are builders, and build something that we're proud of. That's the focus.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, from my perspective, 2020 was a big year for crypto, and especially if we're talking about carbon credits. I remember Musk at one point was saying Bitcoin wasn't renewable enough. We've got to move to something new. And that really spawned a huge run in Hbar and stuff like Dovu. Carbon credits were all the rage back in 2020. I think even today, people are still very focused on that. If we look at the climate change effort, I remember they were predicting 4 Celsius increase by 2100. And now it's like 2.7 Celsius. So there's been a lot of progress, and a lot of companies are big on that. And so I assume you have a lot of clientele. I was looking into you guys, and you've got this big deal that everybody keeps talking about. It's like $1 billion is going to be happening over the course of 10 years or something like that. What's happening there?
What's all that about?
Let me
Oh no, I didn't have enough to take the counter punch. He would have been dead if I did.
Round 2. Fight.
Too many buttons. Let's go. Another W out of this joint.